Let's do a couple examples of some higher order derivatives. Feel free to pause the video and work ahead if you feel like you have the hang of it. A fifth derivative for this function is what we want to find first. I'm going to just go ahead and label my derivatives. This helps me remember where to stop and helps me to get full credit by remembering to label my functions. So I have f prime of x, f double prime of x, f triple prime of x, and then from there I'm just going to use a superscript 4 for the fourth derivative, and then we're going to the fifth derivative on this one. So this will be the last one I label, and then I'm just going to go down through and keep taking the derivative of a derivative until I have that fifth derivative written down. So let's give this a try. So our first derivative, 5 times 2 is going to give me 10x. Derivative of 8x is 8. Derivative of 32 is 0. So I have f prime of x is 10x plus 8. The second derivative is going to be taking the derivative of the first derivative. So derivative of 10x is 10. And the derivative of 8 is 0. Now I'm ready to take my third derivative, which is going to be taking the derivative of the second derivative. So the derivative of 10 is 0. And ooh, this is getting nice and easy. Derivative of 0 is 0. And then lastly, for my fifth derivative, the derivative of the fourth derivative, 0, is just 0. So it probably takes more time to label all 5 functions than it does to actually take all 5 derivatives. But there, we've done it. We've shown all 5 derivatives. If it says just find the fifth derivative, you don't have to write this all out. But if it says the first 5 derivatives, I would write it all out. And normally I would just tell you to show all your work just in case something goes wrong. You can get as much partial credit as possible. So never a bad thing to write out all 5 derivatives. This last one here, we have f of x is 2 over x squared, and we're going to find the third derivative, so we don't have to go as far this time. I'm going to start out by just writing f of x. I'm going to rewrite that one because it's written as a fraction, and then I'm going to label my 3 derivatives just so I remember where to stop. I'm going to take the first derivative, the second derivative, and then I'm going to stop at the third derivative. All right, so to start, this is 2 over x squared. So I'm going to rewrite this as 2x to the negative 2. I want to take it out of the denominator, so it's going to be a negative exponent. Just be super careful. You don't want to call that your first derivative because it's not. We didn't take the derivative. We didn't bring down the power and subtract from the new power. So all we did was rewrite the original function. So be super careful. Don't call that the first derivative. That is f of x. But now we're ready to find f prime. We're ready to bring down that power. 2 times negative 2 is going to give me negative 4x. The negative 2 minus 1 is going to give me negative 3. So there is our first derivative. First time we brought down the power, subtract 1 from the new power. We're going to do it again to find the second derivative. So I'm going to do negative 4 times the negative 3, which is going to give me positive 12. X and negative 3 minus 1 is going to be negative 4. So I just found my second derivative. And now lastly, the third derivative is going to be taking the derivative of the second derivative. So I'm going to do 12 times negative 4. So be careful on these signs. We're back to having a negative. It's going to be 48 this time. And then negative 4 minus 1 is going to give me a negative 5. So there's my third derivative. This was a tricky one because every time you brought down the power and raised it to a new power, bringing down that power and multiplying by a negative switched the sign. So the first derivative was negative 4x to the negative 3. Then it was a positive 12x to negative 4 for the second derivative. And then we're back to a negative 48x to negative 5 for the third derivative. If this were a multiple choice question, another option of how you could write this third derivative would be putting that negative exponent back in the denominator. So you'd have negative 48 over x to the positive 5. Either of these answers are fine. I would not simplify unless it looks like you're trying to fill out a multiple choice and you need to know what the simplified answer would be.